Hey, welcome to episode number 2, right, ladies? Episode number 2 of Women Mindset, breaking the stigmas around the topic of mental health, breaking the stigmas of having the conversation of mental awareness and whatever that is. So this week, I'm super excited. We are back. Myself, Mary Kim, Heather, and Debbie, and we have an amazing special guest, Casey. And what we're going to chat about today, Casey, I'm so excited you decided to say yes and join us today. We are real women with real conversations, not scripted, and we're here to break that stigma because the more that we talk about it, the more that we make it normal, whatever that is, right? The better people feel comfortable about having those conversations. And even though in 2023, we feel like everything's being talked about, but it's really not. And how do we help that? How do we bridge that gap to allow our communities who don't have a safe space at home or don't have a safe space in their community to go to? You know what? We are here to support and break those stigmas. I am Mary Kim Farkas, and my history with mental health and awareness is that at the early age of 20, my brother, who's a year older than me, literally got dumped at my doorstep from my parents at that time. He's your brother. We don't know what to do with him. He's yours. And I've been on the journey for 30 something years. So that's where my advocacy around mental health comes into play. And Debbie or Heather can take, Debbie, you go first. And then Heather, and then Casey. Then Heather's going to take over and do all the questions, because we're going to talk about how does our sexuality affect our mental health and well-being. So Debbie, take it away, love.
Well, thank you, Mary Kim. So my name is Debbie Dowling-Waba, and I am the owner and founder of Anxiously Overcoming, where I help women to ditch the stress and anxiety and get back to doing the things they love. My journey with mental health is I've had panic anxiety disorder since my early 20s, so pretty much my adult life, and I've had to learn to navigate the waters. And I just got to a place where I was embarrassed because I couldn't talk about it. And I realized that why can't I talk about it? So it's really become a passion and a mission of mine to make mental health a normal conversation, just like diabetes, just like heart disease, just like all those other things. Well, why can't I talk about my mental health? Because I'm perfectly imperfect. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
Yay! Hi, everyone. So yes, I am sex coach Heather, and I am a huge proponent about talking about sex because the church that I grew up in was so against it that it did make me feel like I wanted to stuff down my sexuality, which is really my whole story about why I became a sex coach in the first place. And this conversation today is going to be so amazing because I brought in my friend, a good friend, Casey. I've known you for about 3 years. We met on Clubhouse and just fell in love with each other. And we love talking about sex. We love helping other people feel more comfortable with their body and feel comfortable in their skin and having these real life conversations that, let's face it, most of us are having sex out here, but we're either not feeling satisfied or we're not getting what we want because we have not felt comfortable sharing with the people that love us what we really, really, really desire. So that's the conversation that we're going to have today. So I'm going to pass it over to Casey, and then we'll get going with our amazing, fun roundtable discussion around sex. Go ahead, Casey.
Hello. My name is Casey. I am your lesbian best friend. Social media gave me that name, and I am here to stay. I am a LGBTQAI event coordinator, influencer, and I am now a matchmaker. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here, and let's go. I'm ready.
Okay, amazing. So this is perfect timing, you guys. It's Pride Month. I'm seeing so many different posts all over the internet. I've got a lot of friends in your community, Casey, and they are just, they're out here loud and proud. I see them on the streets holding their phone, going live. Like, this is my everyday. And look, that guy right there just made fun of me. And now I'm talking about it. And this is why it's like so important that we have these conversations, right? So one of the questions that I would love to ask everybody, so we're going to have like a roundtable kind of discussion. So that way, Casey, the spotlight's not just, on you.
Okay.
So anyone can chime in. But I would love to know, in everyone's opinion, how can we promote a more inclusive and affirming approach to sexuality? So anyone can answer that.
I think for me,
Mm.
it's just learning to accept others for where they are and who they are. And I know I mention it often, but every Sunday I call them my husbands. It's my gay husbands. I go to their house every Sunday and spend time with them. And it's just, understanding the people are people. And for me, it's just love who you love. And you just have to be able to embrace that and be comfortable with it. And if you're curious, ask. I ask them questions all the time if I don't understand something. I have a trans friend. I have set lesbians that are married, and I'll come out and ask them. I say, listen, I'm going to ask you a question. If I offend you, please, it's not my intention. If you don't want to answer again, that's okay. And I ask my questions, and that's the only way we're going to learn and be able to accept it. And on the opposite side of that is, they feel comfortable then that they can talk to me, and it allows them to be a little bit more themselves and not feel like they have to hide who they are.
Yeah.
So I think that that's just so important.
Yeah. Casey, do you remember the first time that we were on stage together? And after that room was done, it was Sex in the City or something. And we got off the room and you said to me, Heather, you're one of the first born again Christians that truly accepted me, and I didn't feel like I needed to hide. Do you remember? Do you remember saying
Yes,
that?
yes,
And
yes.
like, whoa, because yeah, you're right. Like in the church where I grew up, they frowned upon anything that wasn't man and woman. And so of course, growing up in the church, you have those mindsets, and you do start to question, even though it doesn't set right. You're like, is it right? Like, so the whole time that I was growing up, I was like, this doesn't feel right. If it felt right and it was right, God would show me in my spirit. And
Yes.
so I have loved on people from day one. I don't care, because I wanted to be accepted too. So if I want to be accepted, I have to give that acceptance to other people as well. Otherwise, we're not going to get back, right? So Casey, I would love to hear your thoughts on inclusive and if an affirming approach. And also, you guys, I would love to know too, like how can maybe we could be voices for the church and mental health care and even therapy sessions, because when my husband and I went to our marriage therapy, that guy was not comfortable talking about the sex aspect. So I feel like all of this, we need to be voices and also help other people, even in the medical facilities, to have that comfort level, because then it helps us as well. So over to you, Casey.
Okay, I'm definitely going to come at it with a very blunt approach.
Go ahead.
Okay. Um, I have a sign on my door that says, mind your own biscuits. Right?
I have a shirt that says that.
Yes.
That's
I
cute.
am a firm believer of minding the business that pays you.
Mm,
Okay. And you also have to realize that now that we're definitely talking about spirituality, your sin is no greater than my sin.
mm,
We're all out here trying to live according to God's word. And I feel like if I can get on my knees and pray and ask God to deliver me from anything that does not serve me for your purpose, who else can be against me? Because I prayed that prayer at the age of 16, and He's been blessing me ever since. So you have to realize that if I can accept you for your wrongs and your wrongdoings, as they say, why can't you accept me? Because I don't cast stones at you.
mm-hmm.
And I can really care what you do in your bedroom. That's between you and your boo's business. You know? So don't come at me with the negativity. And that's when everybody starts minding their own biscuits,
Mm,
that's when we can come to a table and say, how do we move forward?
yeah.
Until then, if you're gonna cast stones everywhere, then it's not gonna work.
And
So
I think,
that's step one.
don't you think too, Case, that when people are casting stones, it's because they might be feeling super uncomfortable with their own sexuality?
Mhm.
See, I was not gonna call them out just yet.
Mm, yeah. I mean,
But
we got to have real conversations though.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I could tell you, I know a lot of people, yes, that sometimes I look at them and say, I saw you last night in the same club I was in last night. So I know that you are not,
Mm,
so that's the truth. Yes, a lot of people are closeted. And I think a lot of people for real like to go with the trends too. So if everybody is against, they go where they, opportunists
yeah.
sometimes. So yeah, like you say, you just gotta own your own truth.
Mm,
Some people just haven't healed that part of their body yet, and their mind, body, and soul yet, to own their own truth.
mm,
Once you know who you are, nothing else can disturb you.
yeah. No, I agree. Mary Kim, what do you got to say?
Ditto. I agree with everything you ladies have shared, and that's my take, Casey, as well. It's like, mind your business, right? Whatever I do, whoever I decide to sleep with or have sex with is my business, right? If it's not harming someone, hurting them, it's
Mhm.
consensual, like, why are you in my bedroom? Like, and
Mm,
this goes to not only what our sexuality is, like, or who we decide to sleep with and whatever we decide to do, right? As long as you're being safe, respectful, whatever, it's perfectly okay. But we know today there are states who are taking away rights based on who they want to sleep with.
mm-hmm.
Like, what are we doing here? I'm against all of it. Like, mind your business. But
Yeah.
if you study behavior, study talk to people who've been in these different situations, and because this is still in 2023, let alone how many decades behind us, a stigmatized situation of like, who do you decide to sleep with, right? And you only can sleep with male versus female and all that, and that's it. And that's the way God wanted it. But the truth is, and I shared many times in our space, in your space, Heather, that if God made our body parts to be what they are and have us attracted to whoever we are attracted to, we have the right to do that. God didn't make us outside of who we are.
Right.
But so many of us have been grown up like, oh, that's wrong. You're gonna go to hell. This is not right because it's not the norm. But what is the norm? Because we know a lot of these, and I grew up Roman Catholic, so I'm gonna say it, right? Is that we know a lot of these priests who preach this stuff were in there doing the thing,
Yeah.
right? And
Oh yeah.
hey,
Casey.
um,
She's like,
so let's,
that
anyway,
one eyeball.
so that is my take. Enough. It's having these conversations,
Oh, man.
making it okay for us to talk about the reality. We're talking about what's happening in real life, not this pretend. Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's my take.
I have a friend here that lives in town, and she doesn't watch my social media, so I can say I'm not gonna say her name, but she came to me this one day, and she's like, I've been married, got kids, we've been married for like she's been married like 20 something years, and in the secret part of her life, separate from her husband, she was watching same sex videos all the time, like all the time, all the time, all the time. So finally, one day, she's like, I've never talked to my husband about this because I thought he would make fun of me or want to divorce me or whatever. And so she just kept it quiet and secret. So this one day, she's like, you know what? I feel like I just want to have this conversation. So they did, and now they're living their best lives. She's figured her stuff out. They bring in and they still together bring in and. So I think a lot of times what keeps us from really owning our sexuality is that we're worried like the impact that it could potentially make on the loved ones around us that are used to knowing us one way, but they really don't know the whole us because we haven't really accepted that ourselves, and then we haven't learned to voice it out loud. So do you guys want to chime in on that?
Well, I think that, you have to be comfortable in your sexuality, whatever that is. And it is important that you are able to live your life as you seem fit. And if you're comfortable as a heterosexual or a homosexual, I'm going to go back to what Casey said. What goes on your business with your boo ain't none of my business, and mind your biscuits. And that's how I always felt, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't make, again, I'm going to go back to we're just humans and we have a lot more in common than we have different. And your sexuality doesn't have bearing on mine. I know who I am. And I think that if God made us the way that He's made us, that's who we're supposed to be. And it's not for me to say, well, that's not the way that you should be. No, you are the way that God made you, and God makes everything perfect.
Perfect.
So it doesn't matter the sexuality. You be yourself. Just be yourself.
And listen, if you guys are curious, if there's curiosity inside you, and if you believe that God created you according to Psalms 139, where He knit you together in your mother's womb on purpose, everything about you is on purpose. So if you believe that, and then you're having curiosity, I think that you could bring those two things together and say, if I'm having curiosity, maybe that's something that God placed there. And even if I myself might be uncomfortable tapping in because I'm like, whoa, maybe I can just take little baby steps to figure out if it's something that I want to add into my lifestyle. Right. I love that. All right. So what steps do you think that we can take to dismantle some of these societal stigmas and address some of these cultural barriers that hinder individuals from truly embracing their sexuality? Anyone can chime in.
I think number one is to own it. You have to own it. Coming from someone that in my younger days lived in a box is miserable. Living in a box that doesn't serve you. I think number one is to own who you are and step out of that box that you did not create. Never be in a box that wasn't created for you. And guess what? We are the drivers of our life.
Yeah.
Gotta realize that we are the drivers of our life, and other people's opinions about you is none of your business. Once you get that and own it, child, is like a plane ride to the Bali Islands, honey. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I love that. Does anyone else want to chime in on that question?
Here, Kim.
About dismantling societal stigmas. What steps can we take to help that?
I'll chime in. I'm going to kind of go back to what Casey said earlier, is that whatever you believe in, right? Whatever religion, whatever the holy person is, or whatever you pray to, the universe, whatever that is, right? You have asked that spiritual thing, for forgiveness, right? And if we live in a culture that accepts people to take someone's life, right? And because they pray to their creator, whoever it is, it's okay. They're going to be forgiven, right? They're going to pass them and understand them, and they're going to go to heaven, right? Or whatever that is to you, what that means to each person. However, if you're choosing to sleep with someone that someone doesn't relate to or doesn't think is right, you're going to go to hell. Like, it doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't, like, when you put those things in perspective, like taking someone's life, right? And then versus who you're sleeping with not hurting, it doesn't even make sense. And the changing the mindset is having these conversations, breaking down what we've grown up that put us in these boxes, like Casey has said, from the environment around us, from what we heard growing up, maybe from a relationship that we were in, is breaking down, like, just own who you are. And I say this all the time, women, is why owning my truth empowers naturally. You have to own who you are and stand up and be around the community that supports you. And we know not everyone's going to support your beliefs, and that's okay, right? You have to keep moving, but and it's a scary thing because many of us still live in this, like, and I'm just going to bring up two things. One is, a lot of people believe that, because of people's environments, or that kids today, if they're exposed to an LGBT friendly book in school, or if they get witness to something that's going to make them become a lesbian. And it's so far fetched
Yeah.
from what reality is, because I have some friends and they say they've known at a very young age that they are not female or they don't feel male. And so I think having those conversations, like, that's not true, but these are made up things. And Heather, you talk about it a lot in the Christian world, of how they say this is what the Bible says, and you're like, the Bible doesn't even have that in there, right? These man-made things that people passed on as the truth, and it's BS.
Yeah.
So you want to speak to that, because you obviously are lesbian. Like, how young were you and you knew, like, okay, I'm not X, Y, and Z, whatever.
Woo! The answer to that question, I have a two-part answer to that one. We used to play mothers and daddies with the kids in the area, and I always wanted to be the daddy. I'll say 4 and 5 years old, I knew, and then 17 when my boyfriend dropped his pants, I automatically came out on that bed, and that was my coming out story. Okay, so that said, what are you gonna do with that, sir? Look, I have a girlfriend. This is over, and that was my coming out story. So I said two part about 4 when I had the vision, okay, and then and then 17 when I made the plan, okay. So yeah,
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
That is funny.
But like Mary Kim, like you said, just because you're hanging out with somebody that has a different sexuality, it's not going to make you be anything but who you are. So
right.
I unfortunately live in one of those states that is doing all this nonsense that I don't agree with at all. And like, for me, I'm just like, just because I'm around lesbians or, my husbands or whatever, it's not going to make me not be who I am. So, and anybody that I've spoken to, because I have asked that same question of when did you know? They all basically can go back to their childhood, and they always felt different from childhood, and it's just that they figured it out along the way. So your coming out story, Casey, just totally cracked me up.
Yeah. And I think too, like when we're around other people that are owning their sexuality, if we have not come out yet ourselves, that's gonna get us more comfortable, because if you're around someone that's like loud and proud about it and they're so confident, and you might be over here carrying so much shame and guilt, and you really want to talk about it and have conversations, I think that would give you some, like, the door to be able to walk through it, and almost like you're giving yourself permission. So I think that too can also be very, very helpful.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about, like, are there any misconceptions or myths surrounding sexuality and mental health?
Casey's raising her hand.
Here's a myth that I need to debunk today. Okay. As you all can see that I am, masculine presenting. And just because I am masculine presenting and my other masculine presenting women does not mean that we want to be a man. I hear that a lot. You just want to be a man. I love my body. I love everything that God created on me. It's beautiful, right, ladies? It's beautiful. Why would I want to give that up to be a man? Because I don't. That's what made me go the way I am. I saw it. It wasn't for me. Uh, so I know I don't want that either. So I wanted to debunk that. You really don't know a person's childhood, like my childhood. A mother, a grandmother, and 5 uncles. I was raised to be a tomboy. But it doesn't mean that I wanted to be him. I'm a little more strong, a little more alpha than some women. So I just wanted to debunk that not all women that are tomboys want to be men, because some tomboys are not even in the lifestyle. We know we got to stop doing that.
That's a question that I actually had for a very long time. So no, I did. So because you don't know. Like if you don't have anyone to ask, you don't know.
Right.
So I'm really glad that you said that. Yeah. What about you, Mary Kim? Do you have any myths that you've heard that you think that might help someone if you debunk it?
Yeah, I think really leaning into these myths of what the reality is, right? And the reality is not the truth because they just created it in their head. It's what Casey shared, right? It's what we've shared already, and not understanding. And that's what Debbie shared, right? Ask the question, right? There's like in 2023, there's no, you can find anyone to chat with about your question, even if you aren't friends with them. Because I know, and I have a boy who's 10 with Down syndrome, so people automatically, because you can see it in his face that he's a boy with Down syndrome, put him in a box. So when they see Casey, Casey's in a box. When they see me, I'm put in a box. Heather, when they see what you do, she's put in a box. Debbie, you're put in a box. Like, can we just stop putting people in boxes?
Yes, internet, internet
Please.
trolls.
Ask the question, and I know, like all of us, right? We're open. Like, ask me the questions about my son, right? Because I had to break the stigmas down in my own head that I grew up with when I was pregnant with him and had to decide in 6 weeks whether to keep him. Like, I had to break down all of that. We all want us to be asked the question so we can tell you what it is. And I think people just to be open-minded because we grew up thinking X, Y, and Z based on what we were told, saw, whatever. And it's time to just ask the questions. Like, enough assuming.
Yeah.
Because that stands for, right?
Yeah, I love that. What about you, Deb?
I think for me, the biggest thing that I've heard that really just gets under my skin and makes me angry is that because a person is gay, they're going to go after children.
Oh,
That infuriates me to no end because let me tell you something. There are a lot of adults in all communities that are going after children, and I could not think of even one that has been named as a pedophile, basically, that has been in a homosexual. I mean, I'm sure there are. I don't know their gender, but to me, just because you're a homosexual does not mean that you're a pedophile. There are two very different things. And I get so mad when people say, well, they're going to influence our children and then our children are going to be gay. You cannot make somebody gay. You cannot. There is you cannot convince me of that any way, shape, or form. Any way, shape, or form. So I really don't like when that's said. It just infuriates me and I get very angry.
yeah.
I agree. Can I just say, I found this out on Sunday, real quick, Casey.
Okay.
There's a term. It's called MAPS, like male attracted to, like attracted to like young kids. Like it's MAPS is like the acronym, whatever you call it. And I'm like, wow, there's a name for it because the reality is, you're right, Debbie, is that the majority of sex offenders are male, heterosexual males, which stem from their childhood if you do the research, right? Yes, there are females, but a lot of the females who are pedophilers are usually not in a good space, and they're with the man who like makes them do that, right? And out of love, and like, so it's I love that, Debbie, too. That burns my skin too. I yield the mic, but yeah, there's a thing called MAPS. That's crazy.
Go ahead, Case.
I want to touch back on the kids. Okay, there's nothing to me attractive about a child. Okay, I want the full package. Okay, and I don't see anything attractive about the child. And I only have one. Since we are debunking myths, I have one more that I think the world may need to see. Is that just because I'm gay does not mean I'm gay for you. Okay.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
I
Like
have a type.
just because someone is
Okay.
women that you have to like feel uncomfortable around them, thinking that they're gonna come on to you.
Yeah. Just because I'm a part of the community does not mean that you attract me.
Mm.
And I want people to kind of humble themselves because everybody does not want you, ma'am or sir. And I'm quick to tell somebody that, oh my goodness, are you gay? I'm not gay for you. Okay, I don't have a problem with telling you that.
I like that.
You
I
know,
like how you said that.
so
I'm not gay for you.
yeah, I'm not gay for you. No, no, ma'am. I like men. Look, not for you. Okay, uh, everybody that is a part of the community is not attracted to you.
Hmm.
So please humble yourself in this season.
Hmm.
Or sometimes we can humble you for you. We don't like to do that,
Yeah,
but
be way more uncomfortable.
yeah,
Pay,
yeah,
have someone put us in our place. Dang. Okay.
yeah. It's like ma'am, you have a really nice necklace on. Oh my goodness, look, I like your necklace. That's you. I didn't compliment you. It was the necklace that, you know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I have one. So there's I'll just talk from the Christian standpoint since that's the area that I tend to coach on. So there's a myth in the Christian community. Well, they don't think it's a myth though. That's the thing. So there's a saying that is in our community that if you self-pleasure, that you're opening up demonic forces. I have heard that from a very, very, very young age, that self-pleasuring is wrong, that it should be only pleasured from the person that you end up marrying, and that you shouldn't even touch yourself. And I heard that for so long. And of course, when I was younger, I did, because everyone's attracted, you get turned on, you're curious, you want to experiment. So I carried around a lot of guilt and shame around that my entire life until I was probably in my early 40s maybe. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I want to do this. Why would God put something in my body? He did create all of us on purpose. Why would he create a body part that brings this amount of pleasure when I put my own hand down there? And so I really started to question that. And then that took me back to scripture. Well, let's see these Bible verses that they say that's talking about self-pleasure, that's talking about self-pleasure. And they're using those scriptures as saying it's wrong and it's evil and you shouldn't do it and ungodly and whatever. So I started doing a bunch of research, and yeah, like the verses that they bring up in the church, they're not even like from the original context. Has nothing to do with self-pleasure at all. So I just want to encourage everyone watching, please do your own research, and that includes reading the Bible for yourself. Don't just take what someone on the pulpit is saying as fact. Okay. Go back and read the Bible for yourself. Get a thesaurus. You can actually go back and look at the original Latin and Greek words. That's what I did. And I'm like, and you'll have those light bulb things go off, and it's going to help you to feel so much more comfortable in your body. And it's really going to help you to own your femininity and your masculinity and your sexuality, and just loving on yourself and realizing that this is just an expression of gratitude that, man, my body works, and like, thank God my body works and I can feel pleasure, because not everybody does. So that is one myth that I would like to debunk.
That's a
All
good
right.
one.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a good one because we just talked about schools. So Mary Kim, you might want to chime in on this one first. So what role can schools and educational institutions play in providing comprehensive and inclusive sexual education that promotes healthy attitudes and behaviors?
So interesting
Hmm.
question. We were at my uncle's, my cousin's house, and our family was there, right? So this topic exactly about the schools and what they're teaching and at what age and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And my sister's a kindergarten teacher, so they are, as part of health education, are required to talk about things. And most times, the school sends home a notice. Many parents have shared with her and then my other cousins that parents were like, you can talk about this. My child's allowed to hear about this, but you can't talk about gay or lesbian. There's not allowed to have books around gay and lesbian because I don't want my child to become gay or lesbian, right? There's also conversations of, is it appropriate for the school to talk about it? And some of us chimed in. We're like, well, most parents, even in 2023, are still not even talking about the conversation of sexual awareness, sexual health, and like back in the day,
Like with their own kids, they're still not talking about it with their own kids.
they're talking about stranger danger. Well, now it's not stranger danger anymore. It's like something like self-awareness and stuff versus like, because we know for a fact most people most predators are part of the family, right?
Yeah,
so it's not
true.
stranger danger. So I don't think schools are responsible for say, but where are the parents? I think it should be part of health, right? Because it is health awareness. It's how do you treat your body. It's like how to take care of your body. Because if parents aren't teaching it, because someone's like, well, why does school have to do it? Because parents are not teaching these or having these conversations. And Heather, we talked to some lady, I forget her name, Casey, and she shared that by the time the child is like 8 or 9, 90 something percent of those kids have already watched a porn.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And we're not having conversations with kids until they're teens.
Or seen a magazine or something.
Some kind of
Or something on the internet, even just like driving by some billboards, with the chick with the big boobs, I mean, like it's everywhere. It's not like it's just this hidden internet porn or something.
Mhm.
Parents need to talk about it. Like, need to talk about it, or like allow the school to talk about it. Because if they don't hear it from you or someone who's a trusted adult, they're hearing it from the streets. We know that. That's how most of us grew up. We heard it from the streets or from our own experiences.
Yeah.
2023, let's get it together. That's
Yeah.
I love that, man. If they're gonna bring this stuff back in the schools, though, I'm like, can we bring God back in too? Because I feel like, can we do the Pledge of Allegiance again and like pray before class and after class and talk about sexuality? Because really, it does all go together.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to chime in on that with the school system? Yeah, go ahead, Case.
I think that, okay, I understand where a lot of people are coming from because they don't want to introduce certain things to their children at certain ages. I get it. But what I think that the schools should do, number one, bringing a drag queen or a drag king to a elementary school to have story time, I'm not for that, right? But what I think we should do is change the curriculum to be more about acceptance.
Yeah. I like
Accepting people for who they are, embracing them. Don't hate don't hate what you don't understand. If we can change the curriculum like that, take out the word LGBTQAI
hmm.
and just teach acceptance.
I know. I
I,
agree. I agree. Like, so does that actually bother you? Now that you said that, I'm going to ask you. So
Mhm.
does that bother you that, yes, you're a part of the lesbian community? Do I need to have an L? Like, do I need to have an identity with a letter like that? Or can it just be acceptance? Like, does that bother the community? Because I've always wondered, because it seems like more of a label to me.
Yeah.
I think that it kind of, because it's like certain different categories within the community. Like you have the lesbians, the bisexuals, the transsexuals. You have the queer. You have the question. Well, you have the questioning. That's curious.
Yeah.
You have all of these different acronyms. But I really believe that, like I told you before, I don't like fitting in boxes. I
Yeah.
mean, if that's how you have to label, if you know how to identify me, I understand, because sometimes people need labels. I understand that.
Yeah.
I think that it is neat that they have the letters, to kind of separate everybody. But I really believe that let's just be pride babies. So we're just pride community. That's what I kind of grew up on. Because I'm older, so
Yeah.
some of this stuff is kind of new to me.
Right.
But hey, they're teaching me, and I'm here for the lesson.
Yeah.
Then that's how I look at it. Because you got to look at it, the new generation is now ahead now.
Hmm.
So we just have to learn. They will teach you. They will teach you. They will. Some will teach you harder than others. But it's just all about. I would just say adapting. We just have to adapt, just like we have to adapt to internet versus, the beeper. We used to have a beeper. Now we have like full-fledged cell phones that are smarter than us. So it's like you just have to adapt with the times, you got to go with the flow.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I love it. So, as we get ready to close here, what would you guys say are some action steps that even each of us and everyone watching can implement to promote our own sexual empowerment? So that way, as we're owning our own, hopefully it'll make a transition into helping other people accept their own.
Hmm.
I think it's just being open about it. I mean, obviously you have to know your audience, but I think it's about just being open and creating that safe space to have the conversation so that you can talk about the things that you're experiencing, talk with somebody that and see what they're experiencing, and just have that understanding of everybody's different.
Mhm. So, Debbie, since you're in the mental health space, what would you say that when someone is questioning their sexuality, struggling with it, struggling to accept themselves, that it does take a hit on their mental well-being?
Yes, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but there is a high rate of suicide amongst the LGBTQ community because
Yeah.
they're either struggling with their feelings of how themselves and shame that, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing when it's them. They're dealing with families that aren't accepting. They're dealing with society that isn't accepting. They're not surrounding themselves with the right people that will uplift them and be a part and be a support for them. So it makes me sad, and I wish that there was a way to really make them realize, like make people in general realize there's always somebody out there that can help you. There's
Right.
always somebody you can talk to. And I think that just opening up the conversations and having those conversations and validating people. I'm very big about validating people on their feelings because you don't know how they're feeling. So
Right.
you can't tell them, no, you don't feel this way. No, you can't feel this way. No, these are real feelings to me. So I think the number one thing is validate that it's their feelings and let them express their feelings, how their feelings are.
I love that. Does anyone else have any action steps that they'd like to give? Yeah, go ahead, Case.
I'm just gonna piggyback off of what you just said. Um, Go where you're celebrated.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my
Go
God.
where you're celebrated. I always, and I'm always live, especially if you are in the LGBTQI community. I have a really big community. And majority of my people that come to me are people that are curious. They live with family members who just don't understand them. They live with churches that won't let them in. You have to go where you are celebrated, and there are platforms like mine and it's a lot of us out here that do have spaces for you to come. Because I always say that you know, blood sometimes don't make you family.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You know, the people that love you and add value to your life is sometimes more family to you than your blood.
Yes, true.
So come see me. I am just KC all platforms, and we will get you together. Come join my family because I am your best friend. Yeah,
I love you, Casey.
I love you too.
Mary Kim, do you have any action steps for the viewers?
I'm agreeing with all the ladies here. Own your truth. Like, that is my thing. You got to own your truth. And if you're struggling, be based on your history, your family, whatever you were taught or not taught, or whatever the case may be, your community, is seek the help so you can break down those thoughts that are clouding your vision to be who you're supposed to always be. Like, just own it and do
Yeah.
the get there, and not allowing other people to tell you how you feel or what you need, right? And I say that too, like, your feelings are valid, right? And just like you shared, Debbie, and they're real, right? Just because they're not Debbie's feelings, right? Own it and work on owning it, because you know what? You're worth it, right? You're worth it to live this life that you want. And I say this now often when I talk to the youth. What makes you different than anyone else in this world? Right? What is it that you have that no one else in this world has? Your own fingerprint. There's nobody else that has it. So that tells you everything you need to know, that is yours. So own your fingerprint, right? And just do the work so you're not living in someone else's version of you, because your creator already gave you the blueprint. It's yours. You need to own it. So that's what I would say. Like,
Woo! Bring the empowerment, man. I love how you bring the empowerment. And when you're saying fingerprint, it's reminding me of the same with the footprint. We all leave our footprint on the planet, so which also has our DNA. And you know what? My action step for you guys would be, this is what I did. When I didn't know, I went to school. So I went to school and I became a sex therapist because I didn't understand everything and I wanted to know how I could help my own marriage. And I also felt like this would be a good way for me to learn how to help other people that might come to me with, that wanted to hire me. Let me tell you something. Before I went to school, I did not know that there was a fetish called exhibitionist. And when I read the definition, I never had a definition for myself, but I was like, oh, that's me. So I'm just saying, like, that going and educating yourself like that will help you, as well as like being able to help other people if that's the direction that you guys want to go in. So but yeah, this has been a great conversation. We will be back next Monday, same time. It'll be around mindset, but different topic. I don't know what we're going to be discussing, but come back and join us 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. We would love to continue these conversations. And thank you to each and every one of you that shared your thoughts and your insights today. It's been incredible. Casey, thank you so much for taking the time to represent the lesbian community today. We love you and appreciate you so much. Do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up today?
I just want to say thank you guys for thinking of me, and I really appreciate this experience, and I hope this won't be the last time.
Oh, it won't.
It won't. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much. Take care. We love each and every one of you, and go and be yourself on purpose today. Bye.
thank you,
Bye.
ladies. Casey, I want to